Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a really important topic, your personal safety.
Yeah, it definitely is.
You shared a fascinating resource with us, the book How to Live Safely in a Dangerous World by Lauren W. Christensen. And our goal today isn't really to instill fear, but, to pull out the most valuable insights.
Right. Give people practical knowledge.
Exactly, stuff that can help you feel more prepared and aware, but without feeling totally overwhelmed.
That's right. And, whether you're just looking for some straightforward, easy to implement tips for your daily life, or maybe you're interested in understanding the sort of core principles behind staying safe, well, this deep dive should have something for you.
Yeah, we want to go beyond just like summarizing the book.
Definitely. We want to really explore why these ideas are so crucial, for your personal security in today's world.
Absolutely. We're on the hunt for those aha moments, those like surprising bits of info and actionable advice that can genuinely sharpen your awareness and boost your preparedness.
And you brought this book to us, so.
Right. So we're excited to unpack some of the key strategies within it, things you can start thinking about, maybe integrating into your life pretty much right away. Let's kick things off with a really fundamental aspect, the mindset of awareness.
Okay. Yeah, this is where the author really lays the groundwork.
Mm-hmm.
He makes a pretty strong argument, actually, that many people become targets not because danger is just unavoidable, but because they lack a certain level of awareness.
And they don't take preventative steps.
Exactly. They fail to take some basic preventative measures. It really boils down to the difference between just being physically present somewhere and being truly mentally engaged with everything around you.
Yeah, the book paints some really clear pictures of this. Like, think about someone walking down the street, totally engrossed in their music through headphones, right? Completely tuned out.
Or the person just staring off into space, not noticing anything happening around them.
Right, or that harried parent juggling kids, bags, maybe a phone call. Their attention is just completely scattered. The author suggests these situations, well, they can unfortunately make people more vulnerable.
And what's really insightful is this distinction the book draws between what it calls stage one and stage two mindsets.
Stage one and stage two. Okay.
Yeah. Stage one is basically that autopilot mode you're going through your day, but you're not really processing the potential for threats around you. You're just there,
Oblivious, kind of.
kind of oblivious, yeah. Stage two, though, is a state of active alertness. Your senses are engaged. You're constantly observing. You're evaluating your environment for anything that might seem, out of place or potentially dangerous. The book really encourages adopting stage two as your more natural state.
And it's not just about avoiding bad things, right? It can actually act as a deterrent.
Exactly. There's this fascinating quote in the book from a convicted purse snatcher.
Uh-huh.
He basically said he couldn't have successfully stolen a single purse if his intended victims had just been paying attention.
Wow, that says a lot.
It really does. It highlights that criminals often look for the path of least resistance. They're looking for people who aren't focused on what's going on around them.
It reminds me of that old saying, be prepared, like the Boy Scouts.
It's exactly like that. It might sound overly simple, but that underlying mental readiness, that consistent sort of low-level awareness can have a surprisingly significant impact.
So like recognizing potential threats in common places.
Yeah, the book gives examples.
Hmm.
Being in a convenience store late at night, maybe.
Yeah.
Or even just noticing a car door that's slightly ajar down the street. Little things.
And it's not just about spotting the danger, it's also about your mental state, if you're confronted, right?
Absolutely. The book touches on that very real phenomenon of panic and paralysis in threatening situations.
Freezing up.
Yeah, freezing up. And it's quite sobering, actually, to realize that even people with a lot of training, martial artists, law enforcement officers, they can freeze up if they're not mentally in that alert state.
So that raises the question, how do we actually cultivate this alertness, like day to day?
Well, the book offers a practical technique, consciously practicing 360-degree awareness.
360 degrees, okay.
Yeah, it's about making a habit of scanning your surroundings, not just what's directly in front of you, but also what's behind you, to your left, to your right. It becomes a routine, like actively taking in information about your environment all the time.
Okay, so we're working on being more aware. Got it. What's the next step then?
The book moves into the importance of having a plan. Right.
A plan.
And this doesn't mean like having super elaborate escape strategies for every single possibility.
No. It's more about developing some basic mental responses to common dangerous scenarios.
Like a mental toolkit.
Exactly. A mental toolkit of reactions. The example of waiting at a bus stop is a really good illustration the book uses.
How so?
Well, If you notice someone approaching who makes you feel uneasy, your plan might involve something simple, like shifting your bag to your non-dominant hand so your dominant hand is free.
Maybe having your pepper spray accessible if you carry it. And positioning yourself near something solid, like a lamppost or a bench, that could offer some physical separation if needed. Just thinking ahead a little bit.
It really drives home the idea that, when it comes to your personal safety, you are ultimately the person in charge.
Yes, 100%.
You can't just assume someone else will step in or that things will magically work out. Having even a basic plan in mind can give you a sense of control, maybe help you react more effectively if you do find yourself in a stressful situation.
And this leads into a point that's, well, it's a bit uncomfortable but very important that the book makes. The idea of the myth of the helpful witness.
Ah, the Kitty Genovese case.
Exactly. It uses that well-known story as a really stark reminder that you can't always count on others to step in and help, even if it's a public situation and lots of people might be aware of what's happening.
That's a tough truth.
It is. But the book highlights that for various reasons, maybe fear of getting involved, not wanting to become a target themselves, or just assuming someone else will do something, people might hesitate.
The bystander effect.
Right, the bystander effect. This really reinforces the idea that your own awareness and your own preparedness are absolutely paramount. You have to be your own first line of defense, essentially.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit now. Home security. The book dives into the psychological impact of being burglarized.
Yeah, and it describes it as something that goes way beyond just losing stuff, material possessions. One victim even described it as a kind of psychological rape.
That's a powerful term.
It is. It conveys that deep feeling of your safe space, your sanctuary, being violated.
And it's interesting to learn how burglars often choose their targets. It's not always just the wealthiest neighborhoods, is it?
No, not always. Sometimes it's more about opportunity, ease of access, or just the perceived presence of valuable items, electronics, jewelry, cash,
Yeah.
and surprisingly, even firearms.
And the book points out how things like overgrown landscaping.
Yeah, dense shrubbery, even the placement of garages can unintentionally provide cover for someone looking to break in.
So visibility is really key here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The author suggests being thoughtful about your landscaping. Tall shrubs or solid fences might give you privacy, sure, but they can also block the view for neighbors or passing police patrols.
Making your home potentially more appealing to a burglar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like a high fence blocking the view of a sliding glass door in the back. That makes it a much easier point of entry.
Doors and windows. Obviously the main entry points.
Unsurprisingly, yeah.
And there was a statistic in the book that really jumped out at me. It said homeowners leave their doors unlocked about 70% of the time.
70%. It's staggering, isn't it? It really emphasizes that a lot of burglaries are actually crimes of opportunity, often committed by younger, maybe less experienced individual just looking for an easy way in.
And this leads to the concept of the 90-second deterrent.
Ah, yes, the 90-second deterrent. Crime prevention experts believe that if you can take a burglar more than about 90 seconds to get into your home,
Just a minute and a half?
just a minute and a half,
Yeah.
they're very likely to just give up and move on to an easier target.
So solid doors, good locks, they really matter.
They really do. A weak door can often be kicked open in just seconds.
Okay, what about windows? A lot of us like to keep windows open for fresh air.
Yeah, and the book offers some simple, relatively inexpensive security measures for that. Things like putting in window pins or drilling additional holes in the frame.
So you can limit how far the window opens?
Exactly. You can still get ventilation,
Yeah.
but it's much harder for someone to get through. And basement windows are specifically mentioned as being particularly vulnerable.
Because they're low and often hidden.
Right. Location and often hidden from view.
What about window bars?
Bars are presented as a very effective deterrent, visually and physically,
Oh.
especially for those basement windows. But the book wisely cautions against installing bars on upper floor windows. Fire escape. They could severely impede your ability to get out in a fire.
Good point. So what's the alternative for, say, smaller windows near doorknobs?
Well, the author suggests looking into Lexan or plexiglass. These are types of plastic, basically, that are incredibly strong, virtually shatterproof, a higher security option.
Okay. And lighting. We can't forget lighting.
Critical. Absolutely critical. It's not just about being able to see where you're going at night. Good outdoor lighting, front, sides, back,
Yes.
especially focused on entry points and any potential hiding spots acts as a significant deterrent.
The book even suggests a simple watch dial test.
Yeah, I like that one. If you can't clearly read the time on your watch in a particular area of your yard at night, you probably need more light there. Simple but effective.
So let's say, despite all these precautions, someone does manage to break in. What does the book say to do?
Okay, key steps. First and foremost, your safety is always the priority. If
Always.
you come home and suspect someone might still be inside, don't go in. Go to a neighbor's, a safe public place, call 911 from there.
And if you enter after a break-in,
The advice is not to touch anything. The police might want to look for fingerprints. Although the book does note that usable prints are actually found in a relatively small percentage of cases. Still, best not to disturb the scene.
right, and providing a list of what's missing.
Yeah, really important. Start with the larger, obvious items first, then follow up later with a more comprehensive list. The shock of being burglarized can make it hard to remember everything right away.
That makes sense. Okay, what about home alarm systems? The book raises some important questions to consider before buying one.
Yeah, these are really practical things, like how many potential entry points does your home have? Who's going to be responsible for actually operating the system day to day?
Yeah.
How easy is it to use? What kind of warranty does it come with?
And can a burglar potentially bypass it?
That's a big one. Can a knowledgeable burglar defeat the system? The book even suggests maybe consulting with burglary detectives at your local police department. Ask them if alarms are commonly defeated in your area and how.
Good tip. And just having an alarm isn't enough, right? Maintenance is key.
Absolutely. The book stresses replacing the main backup battery every few years, testing the alarm monthly, having routine maintenance checks by the company.
And telling them about changes, like pets.
Yeah, informing them of any significant changes, new additions to the house, even getting a pet that might trigger motion sensors.
Okay. Lastly, on home security, neighborhood watch programs.
Right. The book touches on the value of these. It highlights that even something as simple as having watchful neighbors looking out for each other can be a very effective deterrent.
Community effort.
Exactly. Get involved with your community. The book even provides contact info for national organizations that can help you start a neighborhood watch if there isn't one already.
All right, let's move on to a topic that's particularly important and can be quite sensitive: children's safety.
Yes, very important. The book emphasizes that children are, unfortunately, more vulnerable to crime, and that education plays a really critical role in protecting them.
There's a statistic mentioned.
Yeah, a really impactful one. With good basic safety knowledge, a child's chance of being victimized can be reduced by as much as 90%.
90%. Wow, that's huge.
It really is. And building a child's self-esteem is presented as a proactive safety measure, too.
How does that work?
Well, children who feel good about themselves tend to project more confidence. And this can actually deter potential predators, who often look for individuals who appear weaker or more uncertain. It's also about framing safety education positively.
Making them feel part of a network.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Part of a safety network that includes family, neighbors, teachers, the police, not just scaring them.
And the book advises against just telling kids don't talk to strangers,
Sure.
because that's too vague.
Right, it can be really confusing for them. Instead, it suggests teaching specific safe behaviors when interacting with strangers.
Like what?
Like not getting into their car, obviously, not accepting anything from them, not letting them touch you, not following them if they try to lead you somewhere. It gives children much clearer, actionable rules.
What about TV violence? That's discussed too.
Yeah, the impact of violence on television. The book stresses helping kids understand the difference between what they see on screen and what's real.
Like superheroes versus real life.
Exactly. Use examples like superheroes, scary movies. Explain about special effects, acting. And emphasize that real guns, unlike those on TV, can actually kill people.
And when setting safety rules, frame them positively.
Yes, advocate for framing them positively rather than using fear-based warnings. So instead of saying, if you walk down that alley, someone bad will hurt you.
Which is terrifying.
Terrifying, yeah.
Yeah.
Instead, maybe say, it's much safer if you walk home using Maple Street.
Yeah.
And perhaps explain why, like, there have been some unsafe things happening in the alley lately. More constructive.
Okay. What about some classic safety tips? Are those still relevant?
Definitely. The book revisits some classic but still important ones, like making sure children know about designated safe houses or block homes in the neighborhood.
And knowing their address and phone number.
Crucial. Knowing their full address, phone number, parents' names, and emphasizing they should only give this info to trusted adults like police or firefighters, and stressing Absolutely stressing. Never get into a car with someone they don't know.
What should they do if someone tries?
Run in the opposite direction. That's the
These
advice.
are practical tips.
Trying to walk in groups with friends whenever possible. Establishing a family code word.
A code word for pickups.
Yeah, a secret code word that only trusted adults will know when picking them up. Teaching them how to remember what strangers look like, maybe by comparing them to people or cars they already know.
Like he had a nose like Uncle Bob.
Exactly. Things like that.
Yeah.
Also, keeping emergency numbers by the phone and practicing how to use them. Teaching them never to give personal info to anyone who calls on the phone when they're home alone.
And using the peephole.
Always use the people or look out a window before ever opening the door to someone they don't know. The overall goal, the book reminds us, isn't to frighten kids.
Right, it's to empower them.
Exactly. Empower them and make them feel like part of a community effort to stay safe.
Okay, let's shift focus again. Dealing with problem neighbors, specifically potential drug houses. This is a tough one.
Very challenging. The book outlines some common signs that might indicate a house is being used for drug dealing.
Like what sort of signs?
High volume of people coming and going at all hours, strange or chemical-like smells coming from the property, visitors who appear maybe to be gang members or generally suspicious.
Does the book offer any hope here? Can anything actually be done?
It actually offers an encouraging message, which is that it is possible to address and even potentially eliminate drug houses. But it takes a concerted community effort.
Working with the police.
Yes, working closely with your local police department. It stresses the importance of carefully documenting any suspicious activity you see. Times, dates, descriptions of people, vehicles.
But don't become the chronic complainer.
Right. It cautions against being perceived by the police as someone who just makes constant, maybe unsubstantiated complaints. Documentation is key.
And getting neighbors involved.
Crucial. Strength in numbers. The book suggests trying to get everyone together, share information, discuss strategies, and importantly, inviting your neighborhood police officer to these meetings.
Why the officer?
They can provide valuable legal advice, explain what the police department can and can't do in these situations. Involving any existing neighborhood associations can also be really beneficial.
And persistence is key.
Absolutely. The book emphasizes that persistence is often key. Even though navigating the system might feel frustrating or slow sometimes, you might hit red tape, but keep at it.
Okay, moving on to sidewalk safety. Seems basic, but important.
It is. The book reminds us that while risks are generally higher at night, things like verbal harassment, robbery attempts, even assaults can happen on city sidewalks any time of day.
So, walking strategies, what does it suggest?
Well, one suggestion is sometimes walking closer to the buildings. But it also cautions you to be aware of doorways and corners where someone might be waiting.
Ambush points.
Basically, if you see a potential threat ahead, crossing the street or even taking a slightly longer route might be wise. The book also discusses the trade-offs of walking in the middle of a deserted street at night.
Better visibility, but you're also more visible.
Exactly, a trade-off.
What about carrying a handbag? Specific advice there.
Yeah, quite specific. It advises against slinging a strap purse diagonally across your chest.
Why not? Seems secure.
Because a thief could potentially pull you down or injure you trying to get it. The suggestion is to carry strap purses either under your coat or over one shoulder, held firmly at waist level.
And non-strap purses.
Tuck them securely under your armpit and hold them tightly. There's even a tip about carrying a clutch-style bag upside down, with your hand firmly on the clasp.
So if someone grabs it,
The contents might spill out, making it less appealing to them. A clever little trick.
avoiding pickpockets. Common sense, but worth reinforcing.
Definitely. Be extra vigilant in crowded places, busy supermarkets, big public events, crowded public transport. And it strongly advises against knowingly going into areas known for prostitution or drug dealing.
A wrong place, wrong time scenario.
Exactly. It just significantly increases your risk.
Okay, ATM safety. Feels like a big one these days.
It really is. The book points out that a surprisingly high percentage of ATM robberies actually happen at night.
So basic precautions.
Park as close as possible. Carefully check your surroundings before you approach the machine. Avoid ATMs that are in secluded spots or poorly lit.
And minimize your time there.
Key. Know exactly what you need to do before you even get out of the car. If you see anyone suspicious approaching while you're using the ATM,
Cancel and leave.
immediately cancel the transaction and leave the area. When you're using the machine, stand close to shield your transaction. And immediately take your cash, receipt, and card as soon as it's done.
Then straight back to the car.
Back in the car, lock the doors right away, don't count your money out in the open, and memorize your peon.
Don't write it down.
Never write it down or share it. Pick a non-obvious PIN, avoid birthdays, parts of your social security number. Keep track of your card, report it immediately if it's lost or stolen.
What if you are robbed at an ATM?
The book advises strongly against resisting. Stay as calm as you can. Try to get a good description of the robber and any vehicle they use. Then call the police as soon as it's safe.
Thieves target people who are alone.
Often, yes. The book reiterates that. Treat ATMs as potential crime scenes. Always use them with caution.
Okay, let's talk about street gangs, a serious issue.
Very serious. The book notes their growing presence in many communities and the real danger they can pose. It discusses common gang activities and the often unpredictable nature of their responses if you happen to have a confrontation.
Shootings are a major concern mentioned.
Yes, including incidents where innocent bystanders get caught in the crossfire and drive-by shootings.
So if you hear gunfire outside your home, what's the advice?
Strongly advises, don't go to windows or doors to look. Safest action is to immediately retreat to the most protected part of your home basement, interior room, away from windows, and call 911.
And if you're outdoors when you hear gunfire...
Sounds could be distorted outdoors, so the safest immediate reaction is drop to the ground, then crawl to cover something solid.
Like behind a car.
Behind a parked car, a steel mailbox, a building corner, even a fire hydrant. Prioritize actual protection, cover, over just concealment. Stay put until the shooting stops. Only move if you think the shooters are coming towards you.
What about just encountering a group of gang members?
Can be intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
They often try to project toughness, seek attention. The book's advice is clear. If you see a group all walking, the best option is just cross the street to avoid them.
And if you can't cross...
Don't expect them to move out of your way. Be prepared to step aside, give them space.
What if they taunt or harass you?
Very cautious approach needed. If you feel threatened, call 911 discreetly if you can. Absolutely avoid any kind of verbal confrontation.
Why avoid confrontation?
Gangs are sometimes known to seek revenge against people who complain about their activities. If gangs are becoming more active in your neighborhood, community involvement is crucial.
Like reporting crimes?
Report all crimes and suspected gang activity immediately. Consider organizing a block watch. Maintain a visible presence in the neighborhood. Stay aware and informed about local gang activity.
All right, shifting to another difficult topic. Violence in schools.
Yeah, the book makes it clear that, unfortunately, no school is completely immune. It cites examples, shootings, stabbings, assaults in various school environments, and notes the concerning trend of more students carrying guns to school.
The psychological impact must be huge.
Significant. Feelings of fear, anxiety, insecurity among students. The book also touches on parental concerns, the trend of some moving kids to private schools hoping for safety.
And some students carry guns for protection?
Tragically, yes, adopting a dangerous shoot-first mentality. And in some really disturbing cases, parents are actually provided the firearms.
What does the book say about the causes?
Complex causes, often a reflection of violence in broader society. Learned behavior, glorification of violence in media might play a role. Feelings of inferiority or hopelessness.
So teaching kids about gun safety is vital.
Absolutely vital. Emphasize that guns are dangerous, they can kill. Advise them to immediately leave the area and tell a trusted adult or call 911 if they ever see a gun. And also teach them not to watch fights, not to get involved.
What if a child witnesses gun violence? How should parents talk to them?
The advice is to really listen to their concerns, let them discuss their feelings, and also praise them for any appropriate responses they might have had during the incident.
Parental involvement in schools is encouraged too.
Strongly urged. Work collaboratively on initiatives to make schools safer. The book mentions measures being implemented. Metal detectors, uniformed guards or police, restrictions on book bags lockers, shooting drills where appropriate, peer discussion groups, school emergency plans.
Okay, let's move into a really complex and personal issue, guns in the home.
Very complex. The book presents a series of really critical questions anyone considering a gun for home defense should think about very carefully.
Emphasizing it should be an intellectual decision.
Yes, based on facts and logic, not just emotion or fear. Questions range from your familiarity with firearms, how you'll store them safely, how owning a gun impacts your family.
What's the best overall defense approach?
What type of gun might be safest and most effective? And maybe most importantly, your actual ability and willingness to shoot and potentially kill another human being.
Heavy stuff. Is there a single best gun for home defense, according to the book?
No single best gun. Experts differ. Some favor shotgun's intimidation factor, easier aiming close range. Others prefer revolvers, simplicity, reliability. Still others advocate semi-automatic pistols, higher capacity.
Factors to weigh?
Bullet caliber. Frame and grip size needs to fit your hand comfortably. Revolver versus semi-auto, consider cost, mechanical complexity, the amount of practice needed.
Concealability isn't the main concern here.
Not for home defense, no. But the book does suggest choosing a gun large enough that you can see the barrel clearly in the dark. Might add an intimidation factor if you confront an intruder.
And just owning the gun isn't enough.
Absolutely not. The book is very clear. Practice is paramount. Having a gun without being thoroughly familiar with handling, loading, unloading, shooting accurately, it's ineffective and potentially more dangerous.
Practice until it's second nature.
Exactly. Use a mirror to refine your stance, shooting posture. Even suggest strength exercises to help maintain a stable shooting posture under stress.
Okay, where to aim? This gets into difficult territory.
It does. The book addresses and dispels two common, potentially dangerous myths. First, that an assailant instantly drops if shot anywhere. Second, that you should aim for their weapon.
Neither is true.
Generally not. The reality, according to the book, is someone determined or under the influence might keep coming even after multiple torso shots. Therefore, and this is grim, the book presents the reality that the most effective way to immediately stop a threat is a headshot.
Regardless of their state.
Regardless of mental state or intoxication. That's the assessment presented for immediately stopping the threat.
The psychological impact of actually doing that.
A very serious consideration the book urges you to think about honestly, in advance. Mentally prepare for the potential aftermath. Understand your own inhibitions about using deadly force.
Accept the reality that violence might be necessary.
Accept that reality, yes. And in that critical moment, the suggestion is focus on outrage at the intruder, violating your home, endangering your family, rather than empathy for them at that instant. Use sufficient force to stop the threat.
But be aware of excessive force.
Acutely aware. Shooting someone fleeing or who has clearly surrendered has serious legal ramifications.
Involving the family in this philosophy.
Strongly recommended. Discuss your home defense philosophy. Involve them in safety training as applicable. The book introduces the safe room concept.
A designated fortified area.
Yeah, where family can retreat during a break-in. Escape is also considered as an option, though it notes potential confusion with police if you flee the scene.
What about moving through the house if you suspect an intruder?
Advice on moving in a combat-ready posture. Maintaining balance, upright crouch. Using a specific gun-holding technique, the depressed ready position. And being keenly aware of bullet penetration through interior walls.
Accuracy in real gun battles. It's lower than at the range.
Significantly lower, often. Cite studies showing low hit percentages even for police. Tunnel vision under stress also impacts accuracy.
Supplementing a gun with other weapons.
Touches on that. Chemical sprays, blunt objects like a hammer or a club. Emphasizes practicing with those too if you plan to rely on them.
Using a flashlight effectively.
Important aspect covered. Various techniques for holding it with a gun, arm's length, side by side, crossed arm. Strategies like flicking it on off to disorient.
Yeah.
Using darkness to your advantage.
What if you come home and think someone's inside?
Key is don't rush in. Call police from a safe location. If possible, try to block the intruder's car to prevent escape before police arrive.
Answering the doorbell cautiously.
Use the people. Be wary of uniforms or repairmen if you didn't schedule service. Have a weapon accessible, but concealed.
And legal considerations after a shooting.
Touches on potential lawsuits, even from the burglar or their family claiming self-defense against you. Complex legal aftermath.
Okay, let's shift to chemical sprays, a non-lethal option.
Excellent non-lethal option, the book says. Can temporarily incapacitate an attacker, give you time to fight back or escape. But, important note, not 100% effective on everyone.
The book focuses on OC, or pepper spray.
Primarily, yes. Explains it's organic, causes an inflammatory reaction, needs direct contact with eyes, nose, or mouth to be effective.
What are the effects?
Severe burning, temporary blindness, difficulty breathing, generally non-lethal outdoors.
How to use it effectively.
Try to surprise the attacker. Spray with your weak hand from about 10-12 feet away. Let them walk into the stream. Keep spraying until they're no longer a threat. Then run, call 911.
What if you get sprayed yourself?
Get to fresh air. Rinse face with cool water mist. Allow 30-40 minutes for effects to subside.
Carrying it accessibly is important.
Crucial. Not buried in a bag or in the trunk. Overall, low cost, easy to carry, can be very effective.
Okay, what about improvised weapons, using everyday items?
Yeah, the book explores this. Points out You might not always have a dedicated weapon, but you can often use things around you.
Like what? Give some examples.
A pen, coffee cup, stool, hot iron if you're ironing, briefcase, comb, hat to obscure vision, umbrella, distance strike, lunchbox, swung,
Yeah.
heavy boots, kicking, groceries like a heavy soup can, even a trash dumpster lid outdoors.
Creative. The book also warns about relying on a gun without training.
Yes, includes a cautionary story about someone accidentally discharging their weapon under stress, reinforces the need for practice.
And citizen's arrest, briefly touched on.
Briefly, outlines legal considerations, the physical and civil risks, limitations of authority as a private citizen, advises against doing your own investigation. If you do apprehend someone, focus on safety and immediately turning them over to police.
Okay, car safety. Let's combine auto theft and carjacking here.
Good idea. The book captures that awful feeling of finding your car just gone. Carjacking is defined as theft involving force or a weapon, with that terrifying possibility of kidnapping.
Statistics are concerning.
Very concerning. Emphasizes constant awareness around your vehicle. Check mirrors frequently. Be mindful of anyone following you, especially like when renting a car at an airport.
Parking tips. Leaving escape room.
Yeah, try to leave space in front for an escape route. And responding if bumped from behind.
The bump and run tactic.
Right. Motion the other driver to follow you to a safe public place like a police or fire station.
Huh.
Don't just pull over on the side of the road. Be cautious at payphones, ATMs, especially at night. Well-lit locations, check surroundings, drive away if uncomfortable.
Timing traffic lights.
Try to time them to avoid coming to a complete stop in potentially vulnerable areas. Be cautious if someone approaches your car asking for info. Keep windows up, doors locked.
If aggressively approached.
Try to stay calm. If threatened with a weapon, don't resist. Cooperate. Move away quickly once they leave, then call police. Honking or flashing lights might deter sometimes. Always observe surroundings before exiting your car. Trust your gut.
10 seconds can change your whole day.
That's a quote from the book, yeah. A reminder to take that moment.
Driving alone increases risk.
Unfortunately, yes. On streets, parking lots, garages, if your car breaks down, safest initial reaction is stay inside, unless direct threat. Hazard lights, white cloth on antenna door handle. Have a defense tool ready.
Consider driving on a flat.
If you have to, consider driving slowly on a flat to reach a safer location. AAA membership, cell phone are crucial. If a stranger offers help, stay locked inside, ask them to call for you, or watch while you stay inside.
What if someone says there's a problem with your car?
Don't pull over immediately. Drive to a well-lit service station to check. If police offer help, verify markings, uniform, ID before interacting fully, and absolutely never pick up hitchhikers.
Windows in traffic.
Keep rolled up or slightly open and stop and go, especially in cities. Safer down on freeways, open roads, but roll up at construction congestion. Consider plastic window coating. Always keep doors locked, especially in the city.
Gas tank. Keep it half full.
Good recommendation. At least half a tank. When stopped at lights, doors locked, windows up, car in gear, foot on brake, ready to move. Try to time your approach.
If you think you're being followed.
Never drive home. Drive to a safe public place, police station, busy shopping center. If forced off the road, stay inside if possible. Use horn flashers, cell phone.
Parking safely. 360 search.
Always. Before you exit, be aware of hiding places. Trust your gut. And a stark warning. Never get into a car with someone you don't know, even if threatened.
Run and scream.
Run and scream. Lower chance of being shot on the street versus high risk of rape murder inside their car. Predators look for easy targets, escape routes. Be alert around your vehicle, always.
Okay, aggressive drivers. Road rage.
Increasing problem. Book shares a tragic example of a deadly outcome. Discusses reasons, anonymity, frustration. Highlights danger signs like lane swoopers.
Erratic lane changes, no signals.
Exactly. How to react. Create distance, maintain speed, stay alert, don't provoke them.
If you're being harassed, swerving, throwing things, brake checking.
Stay calm. Note details, car license plate. Call 911 if safe. Never pull over to engage. Bottom line. Give way to irate, aggressive drivers. Avoid engagement.
All right, final major topic. Rape prevention. Acquaintance rape, date rape, stages.
Very sensitive. Very important. Provides historical context. Challenges the misunderstanding idea for acquaintance rape. Points to high resistance rates in studies.
Trust your instincts is a big theme here.
Huge. Even if you're wrong, the consequences of ignoring a gut feeling are far more severe than maybe awkwardness. Be assertive, even rude if necessary for safety. Your safety is paramount.
Rapists target those who seem unaware or compliant.
Often, yes. Trust your own feelings about someone, not just what others say.
Feelings after acquaintance rape. Embarrassment. Reluctance to report.
Common feelings discussed. Wanting to forget. Shame. Also the rapist tactic. Who will believe you? The book makes a crucial point. Submitting is not consent. It's a survival technique. Avoid self-blame.
Date rape prevention tips.
Act independently. Communicate expectations about intimacy beforehand. Be wary of excessive drinking, jealousy, controlling behavior, hostility towards women, general rudeness, red flags for lack of respect, potential to ignore no.
The book breaks down rape into stages.
Yes, 5 potential stages for date acquaintance rape. Stage 1, discomforting signals, action, trust gut, be assertive. Stage 2, beginning of force, grabbing, push, forceful, no, look for escape. Stage 3, physical assault, hitting, restraining, attack only if convinced you'll be killed otherwise. Stage 4, forced sex, action, prioritize escape if attacker leaves, draw on inner strength.
Resisting versus not resisting, a personal decision.
Deeply personal. But the book points to stats suggesting physical resistance is often more effective than pleading. Highlights forceful verbal no, maybe shocking language like, this is rape.
Self-defense for women. Limitations of some classes.
Acknowledges traditional classes focusing heavily on groin kicks might have limits. Emphasizes yelling draws attention, enhances power of strikes. Outlines simple, natural techniques.
Like kicks and hand strikes.
Yeah, front kicks, shin, knee, thigh, groin, stomach. Side kicks, instep, shin, knee. Hand strikes like palm to nose, clawing eyes. Empowerment through basic, effective techniques learned quickly.
There's also a section aimed at men, right? Think about this, men.
Yes, aimed at preventing rape. Key points. No means no. Respect it, even if you think she means yes. Your size can be intimidating. Women can be unsure. No isn't necessarily personal rejection. Ask if unsure. Rape is about violence and dominance, not sex. She might want different intimacy. Control your urges. It's illegal to take advantage of someone incapable of consent, including intoxication.
Important messages. Stalking is also touched on.
Briefly, how rejection can escalate to obsession, hatred, violence. Shares a tragic stalking shooting example. The book concludes with a final thought.
Empower yourself through education.
Exactly. Learn about crime problems. Get involved in community safety. Take self-defense classes. Read books like this one. And share the knowledge.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into how to live safely in a dangerous world, the core message really boils down to, well, taking proactive responsibility.
Yeah. Through awareness, planning, and education. It's essential for navigating the world we live in.
You hopefully now have a significant amount of information to consider, from cultivating that stage 2 mindset, understanding home security vulnerabilities.
You're grasping personal safety strategies for various situations and the often nuanced aspects of self-defense. Our goal was really to distill the most critical takeaways.
Provide actionable insights.
Right. Enhance safety and security without being overwhelming.
Exactly. We've covered a lot of ground. And that brings us to our final thought for you, our listener. Considering everything we've unpacked today, what is one small but significant change you can realistically make, maybe starting today?
Something in your daily routine.
Yeah, that you believe could have the biggest positive impact on your personal safety and sense of security. It's about taking that first step, however small it might seem, towards living a safer, more confident life.